Story 1. I assume you mean the president of the Homeowners Association. The first thing I would do is remove Sandy from the board. Story 2. Call my mom in a panic, then call my therapist in a panic, then fly my dad to Washington, D.C., because I have no idea what to do. Story 3. I am launching investigations into every senator and member of Congress who gained millions while in office, earning a six-figure salary. Story 4. Put a cap on political donations and lobbyists. Abolish inefficiency in higher education and healthcare. Hire people from within the industry. Provide drug rehabilitation or job training for the homeless. Limit or abolish spending on foreign wars. Take care of veterans, the homeless, and impoverished citizens. Instead of deporting undocumented immigrants, allow them to obtain work permits that do not lead to citizenship, enabling them to work and contribute to the economy. Story 5. Ask the director of our intelligence agency for a report about how far and how deep Russian agents are within our critical infrastructure and military. The result will determine my next steps. It would be great to remove those individuals. Story 6. Weed is legal. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are in a difficult situation. All streaming services should not cost more than $8 and should be ad-free. James Gandolfini deserves a place on Mount Rushmore. Make my ex-wife the court jester. Story 7. I might accidentally start a nuclear war because of my emotional nature. Story 8. Start stabbing. In an official capacity. Stab. 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 It's probably good I can't wake up tomorrow as president. Story 9. Ban artificial turf and the designated hitter. Hire Tom Hanks to stand by and wait for people to complain, so he can yell at them, "There's no crying in baseball." Story 10. In no particular order. 1. Release the Epstein files. Hold special elections for all politicians in office exposed in said files. Raise taxes on anything over $1 million. Ratify Roe v. Wade and other cases that uphold rights. Ban the sale of all assault weapons. Single-shot guns are legal, but weapons of war need to be banned. Remove censorship from regular broadcasting for television and radio. It is an unnecessary law. Universal healthcare. Universal free secondary education, including college and trade schools. All education should be free. Provide free meals for children at school. 10. Cap medication prices and eliminate them completely with universal healthcare. 11. Assign people to positions for which they are qualified. No more reality TV personalities in serious roles. 12. Find a way to fund public education for all schools. 13. Free Luigi. Not that I have thought about it or anything. Story 11. Call a press conference and explain to everyone in detail how the president does not have a series of dials on his desk like those in an airplane cockpit that adjust gas prices and egg prices. Costs are determined by real-world factors. Story 12. Take the oath of office and then deliver my inaugural speech showcasing what I want to achieve for the nation. Story 13. Throw Trump, Elon, and the rest of their associates in jail. Bernie would be my vice president and ideally Buttigieg as Speaker of the House. Story 14. Sack Hegseth, RFK, Patel, and all those other problematic cabinet secretaries. Reinstate the former holders of the offices. Then I would call a meeting of all those billionaires to inform them how much tax they are about to pay to fix the issues they created. Story 15. I would put Donald J. Trump in chains and move him from major city to major city, where he would be made to sit in public with his legs sandwiched between two locking wooden boards. People would then be able to approach him and talk to him. He would not have access to a makeup artist or hairstylist, but he could wear his baggy and expensive blue suits and long red ties. Of course, people would have to stand in line and pay $5 to say whatever they wanted to his face. However, they would also be required to stand 10 feet from him and have nothing in their hands or on their persons that might be offensive or harmful to those in front and behind them. The ticket sales would go to the individuals hired to maintain order. Story 16. I would get myself a slice of cheesecake and quit. I am not suited for that position. I would crack under the pressure and probably have multiple panic attacks. It is not for me. Story 17. Everything gets vetoed until we achieve proportional electoral college representation and ranked choice voting. If nothing happens for 4 years just to make my point, I am okay with it. I am tired of this two-party extremist situation. Story 18. Impose limits on insurance rates, work towards a long-term adjustment to re-standardize our currency, and continue negotiations to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Those are my 3 main priorities. Story 19. Assemble a team of healthcare system experts to develop a plan to expand Medicare for all citizens. Story 20. Call for room service. I hear the White House chef is excellent. As far as presidential matters, arrange a call with North Atlantic Treaty Organization allies, apologize for past behavior, and do everything I can to support Ukraine. Story 21. Undo all dangerous executive orders, remove Elon from the White House, and tax the wealthy until they are no longer wealthy. Story 22. Raise the minimum wage to $25 per hour. Provide everyone with 2 weeks off at Christmas and 1 week of vacation for every 3 years worked, with a maximum of 10 weeks. Designate all election days as national holidays. Require companies with 50 or more employees to offer low-cost childcare for their employees, and mandate that companies with more than 50 employees provide free childcare. Reduce the pay of Congress and offer healthcare plans comparable to those of average American workers to fund these initiatives. Story 23. Ensure LGBTQ protection, ensure federal abortion protection, and invest heavily in climate change initiatives. Story 24. Investigate Musk for illegal activities in the United States, seize his assets, and deport him for fraud. Story 25. Abolish all gun laws for law-abiding citizens. Institute a law that carries out death sentences on the courthouse lawn for all sex offenders, pedophiles, and violent criminals after a second trial, replacing the appeals court. Those found guilty will be taken outside and executed on the spot. Criminals convicted and sentenced to prison will be sent to work camps where they will produce goods for the American people, which will fund our prisons. All funding currently allocated to prisons will be redirected to education and lunch programs for our children and to ensure teachers are compensated fairly. Limit compensation for corporate executives and require companies to pay their employees fair salaries, capping profits so any excess goes back to the employees. Healthcare and pharmaceutical profits will also be capped, with excess profits returned to patients in the form of dividends. We will separate government from corporations, eliminate all lobbying, and make our government accountable to the people. That's just on the first day. Story 26. To start, enact term and age limits on every office of the government. Create a law stating that only the most verifiably lawful individuals can be on a voting ballot for any office, with no exceptions. Establish a maximum amount of money that every government member is allowed to earn while in office. Prohibit insider trading for any government member. Require that all news must be thoroughly verified as true before publication. Make teachers, firefighters, police officers, military personnel, and all first responders the highest paid professions. Story 27. Create a task force that focuses entirely on money laundering and wealth sheltering. Trace it back to its source. Seize all laundered and sheltered wealth and instruct the Department of Justice to share any cases for which there is sufficient evidence to charge individuals. Publish online a database with details about all cases of money laundering, including every firm, person, and bank involved, along with the dollar amounts of every transaction. This includes every public figure and politician who has received money from foreign influence peddlers. Story 28. 1. Audit the Internal Revenue Service and the Federal Reserve. Abolish every agency created by executive order as they are unconstitutional and should have no executive power. Introduce a bill to Congress requiring every bill to address a single issue with a maximum of 2 pages. It is ludicrous to have 700 pages outlining the legality of exploratory drilling on private land while also allocating millions of dollars overseas. Mandatory psychological and competency evaluations for every member of Congress and the Senate, as well as their staff. Bomlaibists. Individuals earning under $100,000 a year do not need to file taxes. Those earning over $1 million will have their taxes capped at 35%. We would not need to impose high taxes if government spending were not out of control. Pardon Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. Make it as difficult as possible for future governments to operate at the same scale and scope as the current one. Withdraw foreign aid from countries that are not allies, such as Turkey. 10. End the One China policy. It is foolish and dangerous to allow our main adversary to act without restraint. 11. Advocate for the complete repeal of the National Firearms Act and the abolition of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. If I cannot achieve this, I will appoint someone who understands firearms. 12. Work on term limits for every elected office and eliminate lifetime pensions. Politics is a civil service, not a retirement plan, and no politician deserves a lifetime salary. Story 29. Full protection of natural parks and increased funding for museums and initiatives that preserve the culture, art, and heritage of all the cultures in my country. Story 30. Put Elon in jail. Start impeachment proceedings against my vice president. Fire every agency head that has been appointed since January 20th. Then I would rescind every executive order signed since January 20th. After addressing both Republican and Democratic leadership in my office, I would outline my demands. 1. I want a plan to reduce the size of government by 5% over the next 12 months through normal retirement, early retirements, and buyouts. No forced job eliminations unless that is the only way to achieve the 5%. Be strategic about it, affecting the ability to perform functions as little as possible. Once that is done, look to reduce another 5% in fiscal year 2027 using the same framework. I want a balanced budget with no spending increases. We need to figure out how to provide services with our current resources. Previous administrations have contributed to this mess, and it is up to everyone to start addressing it. There will be no deficit spending in fiscal year 2026. The debt is approximately $36 trillion, and it will not increase. Call the highest-ranking person in the Social Security Administration from the previous administration into my office. We must consider difficult actions to keep Social Security afloat. Nothing is off the table, but I want to determine what it would take to prevent forced benefit reductions until at least the year 2055, except for currently paid-out benefits. Get the leaders of major pharmaceutical companies in my office along with congressional oversight leadership, and make it clear that this must stop. I will empower the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to negotiate prices. Repeat the above with healthcare leaders. Call every head of state except Vladimir Putin and offer my sincere apologies for how they have been treated. Put Putin on notice that tolerance for actions against the United States and our allies is at its lowest. Appoint the highest-ranking remaining member from the previous administration as the acting agency lead for each agency. Inform them that they are caretakers of the agency, its mission, and its people. If they can do the job to my satisfaction with input from Congress, I will advocate for their permanent appointment. But know this, it won't be easy. It will be very challenging, and we have difficult tasks ahead. Reach out to the Obamas and ask them to help. 10. Request Rachel Maddow to be the White House Chief of Staff and my official advisor. There is so much more, but these are the key points. Story 31. Cancel every single executive order, except maybe the penny one. Secondly, call all our allies to apologize for the recent issues. The United States is back, and we are resuming our role as leaders by example and action of freedom, democracy, free markets, and human rights. Story 32. Put more limits on my power, enshrine them into immutable law, resign immediately, and bask in the glory of being benevolent. In particular, I would define any deployment of armed forces as war and assign that responsibility to Congress, where the Founding Fathers established it in the first place. Story 33. Fire all politicians who have been in office for over 8 years of public service at any level of government. Eliminate all homeowners associations and make them illegal in all 50 states. Story 34. Rejoin the Paris Climate Accord, cancel the Ukraine deal, withhold all arms, troops, and financial support from Israel, then have coffee and consider what else to address on day one. Story 35. Why do so many people assume this question is about the United States president when it doesn't even mention a country? What if it's actually about the president of Tajikistan? Story 36. I would address the matter first and then institute a standard policy of open communication. Story 37. Check my Reddit notifications to continue arguments with strangers on my anonymous accounts as I walk to the bathroom. They have no idea they are arguing with the actual president of the United States, and I do not want to reveal that I'm the president. Story 38. Asked to be briefed by the National Security Advisor and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, so that I have a comprehensive overview of the threats facing the country and options for addressing them. This may seem uninteresting to some, but I believe it would be captivating for me to hear. Story 39. Suspend the current constitution and convene a convention to draft one that does not support white supremacy. Story 40. Appoint an advisory committee of historians to provide historical context to modern challenges. How did we get here? What mistakes were made? What lessons can we learn from the decisions, actions, and events of our predecessors? Story 41. Presidential order. No more malpractice insurance. Imprisonment for malpractice will instead be overseen by a board of practicing medical doctors. Additionally, health insurance cannot dictate care. The state of medicine is in disarray. Story 42. Assuming I could do anything I wanted, I would implement term limits and age limits for all positions, including the Supreme Court. I would make lobbying and stock buybacks illegal. I would conduct a forensic audit of the Department of Defense and the healthcare industry in general. I would increase funding for education. Additionally, I would release the Epstein list and enforce harsher punishments for sex crimes. Story 43. If it is the President of the United States, then I would do what I can to limit the power of the executive branch. The executive has become too powerful in the United States, and it appears that the country is likely headed toward a dictatorship. Story 44. Put every politician on the same healthcare system available to everyone. I would also reduce their pay by 70% and create term limits of 2 4-year terms. There is no reason for politicians to become millionaires while holding office for 40 years. I am not sure if there is a pension for these individuals, but that should also be eliminated. Now it's time for a bologna sandwich and a two-hearted. Story 45. If I were President of the United States, I would eliminate all the cabinets and recommend people who are actually competent, which includes Dogecoin. Story 46. I use the power granted to me to eliminate the Make America Great Again movement as a threat to the United States, and I do it in my official capacity as Commander-in-Chief. Every last one of them, and I leave no trace. Story 47. Making it illegal, with heavy fines, to drive below the speed limit unless a serious reason warrants due care. Every 2 years after the age of 60, you need to retake your driving test and reflexes. If you cannot pass, you will lose your license. Story 48. I think doing damage control on whatever foreign trust remains is necessary. While I know there are other more immediate issues, I worry this could be the issue most likely to worsen exponentially and create a ripple effect. Story 49. I called Zelensky and told him he would have air support and a no-fly zone wherever he wants within Ukraine's borders, including Crimea, in 24 hours. Putin has 1 week to withdraw. If he does not, then every oligarch in Russia needs to understand. Either Putin is delivered in handcuffs to Ukraine for war crimes trials, or every last one of them will be hunted to the death until Putin dies too. This is why they won't make me president tomorrow or any other day, because Putin says everything is a hard red line you better not cross. He's got nuclear weapons. Tell you what, Vlad, how about we let Ukraine decide whether or not you get a plutonium suppository? I hear you're fond of the stuff. Get out or get dead. Those are the only choices for you. Story 50. Honestly, I would probably start gathering all the information we know about the politicians, the January 6th insurrection, the Epstein list, anything and everything that definitely proves that 1. Politicians, specifically GOP ones, are involved in a coup. 2. Other politicians have done irreversible damage to the United States. 3. The United States has been covering up predatory behaviors for a long time. Release all of it. Not just one redacted document. All of it. Epstein list, instant chats, emails, phone calls, all neatly categorized. Do you want to hear the phone call between Trump and Giuliani about supporting an insurrection? It's under January 6th insurrection attempt. Do you want to read the explicit names that have been contacting and engaging in sexual acts with minors? It's in the folder pedophile, with categories for both Democrats and GOP members, as well as independents. Let this burn down. The people deserve to know how much they have been deceived. If that means I die, that's fine. But many people are going to get true justice, even posthumously. Story 51. Work to rebuild the country and restore the trust the American people no longer have in the government. Additionally, dismantle lifetime appointments, eliminate all conservative policies associated with former President Donald Trump, and strive to improve conditions for everyone. Also, organize a team of knowledgeable Internal Revenue Service agents and lawyers to pursue wealthy tax evaders. Story 52. Enact term limits for Congress and investigate all members, making the findings public. Apply stricter measures for conservatives. Ensure that no one with a felony conviction can serve in office or hold an elected or appointed position. Increase taxes on anyone earning over $1 billion to 95%. Establish universal health care for all. Hold former President Trump accountable. Story 53. Make it so the political branch cannot appoint Supreme Court justices. Crack down on insider trading, seizure of assets and jail time. Enforce equal time and budget for all parties, not just the two. More choice. Require social media platforms to fact-check more. Open Nazism is outlawed with fines and jail time. Enforce a European model of healthcare. Increase the minimum wage to a livable standard. Reinstate all funding to agencies that lost funds over the last 2 months. Increase funding for public schools. No teacher should have to buy their own teaching materials out of pocket. Cut military spending by taking public ownership of critical companies, such as Boeing. Increase taxes on billionaires. Make filing taxes easier. Story 54. Appoint Elon Musk as the commander of our first lunar base. Then cancel the base and leave him there. Story 55. There are too many things that need to be undone by this person. However, several weeks or months down the line, I would remove the right to vote for everyone who supported the previous administration. If they object to that, then they will need to live under the changes made during that time while everyone else benefits from competent leadership. Story 56. Make the day after the Super Bowl a national holiday. This is the greater good this country needs. The second thing is to start working on a national healthcare and insurance system. I'm only partially knowledgeable and certainly not smart enough to do that, but I would hire the best and brightest to get it done. The third step is to federally legalize marijuana and psilocybin mushrooms because those are the substances I prefer. Finally, I would work to overturn the repeal of Roe versus Wade. After that, I'm going to take a break from being productive to play disc golf and relax for a couple of days before resigning because even though the healthcare system is excellent, I don't really enjoy working hard and prefer a more laid-back lifestyle. Lastly, before I pack my suitcase, I think having 2 women at the same time in the Oval Office would be quite extraordinary. Story 57. Demand an immediate investigation into Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and all their cabinet picks for treason against the American people. I will ensure the Internal Revenue Service makes them wish they never existed. Similarly, I will inform all the CEOs and shareholders of the top 500 companies that we will hold a live fireside meeting to explain their treason to the American people. One by one, they will come forward as I read their crimes from the Department of Justice. Story 58. Am I still myself? If so, I would issue an executive order stating that anyone who is a convicted felon cannot hold office. Then I would sign another executive order prohibiting politicians from buying, selling, trading, or owning stocks. Next, I would assemble a panel of healthcare experts and collaborate with our allied nations on implementing universal healthcare. I would initiate that process. I would gather a group of lawyers to discuss criminalizing Nazism and neo-Nazism, or at least the spread of propaganda promoting such hate speech. There is too much that I would be judged for doing, which in today's America is probably a good thing I am not in the Oval Office. However, I believe most people would prefer almost anyone else to Elon Musk. I mean, Donald Trump. Story 59. Get rid of Citizens United. Establish congressional term and age limits. Implement an age limit for Supreme Court justices. Prohibit Congress and the executive branch from trading stocks. Introduce ranked choice voting for all national elections. Provide universal health care. Impose a 100% tax on all income greater than $1 billion. Redirect military spending cuts to state funding mandated for schools and infrastructure. Develop an international high-speed railway system. Additionally, I would assemble a cabinet of highly knowledgeable individuals to ensure I achieve my goals. Story 60. I'm assuming this is meant to ask about the United States presidency. Typical United States defaultism on display. Assuming this is the premise, I would contact Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for help before everything is taken away. Story 61. Hold a press conference, invite Robert F. Kennedy Jr., show up dressed as a brainworm, say vaccines work, and remove him immediately. Story 62. I would actually try to make America great by making it more like Scandinavia, but I would probably get criticized within a month. Story 63. Announce a trip to Los Angeles. Then partway there instruct the pilot to change course to Groom Lake. They would not have much time to conceal anything. Story 64. It would not be a good time to be a billionaire. Most of them would find themselves broke or at a loss depending on their business and actions. Story 65. Move the United States Marshal Service to be under the Supreme Court of the United States. Move the United States Capitol Police under Congress. Then each branch of government would have its own law enforcement, making it much harder for a president to seize this much power. Story 66. Rename the Gulf of Mexico back to the Gulf of Mexico. We might reclassify Pluto as a planet. Then we can discuss economics, social issues, corruption, foreign policy, and more. But first things first. Story 67. The first step is to order his arrest along with his conspirators and take him to The Hague. Then I will rehire some generals to regain control and ensure compliance with the law. Story 68. All elected officials in the House of Congress and Representatives can only claim their state's minimum wage as their only income. I am sure they will circumvent this by putting everything in their spouse's name, which will make the divorces even more amusing. Story 69. Everybody strap in, we're going back to the gold standard and the Federal Reserve. Don't get me started. Story 70. Get Trump, Musk, and the rest of the political group put in prison for life and classify that group as a terrorist organization. I would also make the Federal Bureau of Investigation hunt down all former Ku Klux Klan members and execute them. Additionally, I would restore everything back to the way it was before that individual took office. Story 71. Repeal Citizens United. Eliminate asset caps on disabled individuals that keep them chronically in poverty. Institute healthcare for all. Implement a guaranteed basic income for everyone. End private prisons, migrant detention, and family separation. Establish a legal path to citizenship. Create an advisory system for all states run and governed by the indigenous people of that area to ensure an ecologically aligned long-term vision. All public schools will teach accurate history and the political system, including past mistakes, as well as the reality of climate change, with a focus on creating an educated and empowered populace capable of rational decision-making. Teach dialectical behavior therapy to cultivate an emotionally stable and rational society. Additionally, increase teacher salaries significantly. Require that no one can serve in government without a commitment to uphold the Bill of Rights. If they violate this commitment, they will be impeached. Investigate and reveal past misconduct and wrongdoings. Story 72. The first thing I would do is ensure that Donald Trump and his associates are held accountable for inciting an insurrection. Then, I would do my best to reverse the damage that Elon Musk and his associates have caused to the government. Story 73. Enact price controls on lift passes and green fees. It should not cost $130 for a small East Coast mountain or $75 for a poor-quality public golf course. Story 74. I am a Democrat from Massachusetts. Story 75. An executive order grants Washington, D.C. statehood, welcoming it as the 51st state of Potomac. The island territories will begin preparing a ballot to decide whether to pursue statehood or independence. I will also order a review of every executive order that has been written since the previous administration to determine which will be retained and enforced and which will be revoked. Story 76. Tell every Supreme Court justice who accepted money and trips to resign or face aggressive investigation and prosecution. Then I would fill the seats with qualified individuals. Story 77. Rescind all of Turnip's executive orders, reinstate diversity, equity, and inclusion policy across the federal government, and investigate the integrity of the 2024 election. When it is revealed that the Republicans cheated, I will prosecute everyone responsible for this breach of democracy. Story 78. I would reverse everything that has been done, starting with abortion, and avoid making women criminals because they miscarried a fetus. I apologize to anyone who is pro-life. If you are pro-life, consider investing your resources in helping mothers who cannot care for their children and did not want them. Story 79. First, secure a sponsorship from Elon Musk. Second, address the issue of alleged bribery involving a government official. Story 80. I would restore everything to how it was on January 19th and then arrest those who contributed to making the Trump administration possible. Story 81. Putting a target on my back for this, but I don't care. Declare Make America Great Again a terrorist cult and ban them from serving in any federal capacity. Fire any and all Make America Great Again supporters in the federal government. Disband Dogecoin. Reinstate people who were most knowledgeable about the information technology systems affected by Dogecoin to reverse any changes made by it. Work with Congress to write laws preventing this sort of thing from happening again. Write a law that prevents a single political party from having control of all three branches of government at any given time. Make the Supreme Court of the United States a rotational appointment, where every year a justice is rotated out for someone from a lower court. Find a way to ensure that the Supreme Court cannot be majority filled by a single party. A 1 to 2 seat difference is acceptable, but a 3 or more seat difference allows for too much bias. Work with Congress to enact a law that the president cannot fire more than a specified percentage of the federal workforce in a given fiscal cycle. 10. Establish certain institutions as highly protected from the whims of a president, such as the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and similar agencies with demonstrable public benefit. There needs to be a balance to prevent each agency from acting independently. 11. Restrict the president and executive branch powers and reduce the scope of executive orders to slow down the transitions between administrations. 12. Fill my cabinet with publicly recognized competent individuals. 13. Enshrine personal medical sovereignty into law, ensuring that no entity shall interfere with a person's right to decide what is medically appropriate for themselves. Allow for checks and balances such as mandatory second opinions or medical board reviews. 14. Implement a flat tax on net worth over $100 million at a rate of 28% for both individuals and corporations. After 10 years of payments, a thorough audit will occur. If compliance is maintained, the tax rate on net worth will drop to 20%. Any fraud found will result in fines and an increased tax rate of 35% until the next audit in 10 years. 15. Establish a fund for campaign finance for candidates. Individuals and corporations can still donate, but contributions must go to the fund and not to an individual candidate. Any excess funds from each election cycle will be donated to charity. I can keep going, but my lunch is over and I need to get back to work. I know many of these points require further clarification to be effective, but I only had so much time and space to outline the main ideas. Story 82. Assuming I'm President of the United States, and that I get to play out the rest of Trump's almost 4-year term, I anticipate significant changes. First, I'm calling up Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer, Olaf Scholz, and Donald Tusk to discuss a plan to deploy NATO troops within Ukraine to guard the border with Belarus and Moldova. Assuming I can get them to agree to a plan, I will then call up Volodymyr Zelensky and bring him up to speed. U.S. defense contractor stock prices are falling during a massive war with Russia. Not on my watch. I am preparing substantial packages to supply the Ukrainian armed forces with more equipment. The second thing I'm doing is addressing the issues created by Trump and Elon Musk in the last month or so, including sincere apologies to all of the friendly countries that we have disrespected. Third, I will deliver short weekly presidential addresses to communicate my messages in extremely simple and straightforward terms. I'll take a page out of Trump's book and be very direct. If I feel like using strong language and my editors need to edit my addresses, I'll just let that happen. The message needs to be clear. Example. Fourth, I will post on social media. Dear members of Congress, I won't sign any bills that cut taxes for the wealthy and reduce services for the vulnerable. Focus on your constituents. Sincerely, the President. Fifth, I may play golf or engage in a similar leisure activity. If I make it to the midterms and secure Democratic majorities in the House of Representatives and Senate, we will pass substantial antitrust legislation to break up companies that have accumulated too much wealth and power. Story 83. I do not take any action and wait to see what happens. I allow the country to observe the effects of having a leader in office who takes no stance, supports no side, or establishes any policy. I let things proceed without direction to see if chaos ensues or if people can come together maturely. Story 84. Clean the house. Remove the entire cabinet and every appointee within my power to remove. Then confess to a series of crimes, implicate the entire Republican Congressional Caucus in various offenses, and resign. At some point, I will likely send my dad a significant amount of money. Story 85. I would sign an executive order to make Elon Musk go to Venezuela and bring Maduro back as he said he would. Story 86. I am designating the month of June as National Appreciation Month, where we celebrate beautiful American women. Our poster girl will be Dolly Parton and the iconic character from Seinfeld. My friend and I noticed that well-endowed actresses are rarely the leading ladies. If there is a topless scene, it never involves actresses with a C cup or higher. It is usually a B cup at most. This is discrimination, and this is not acceptable. Story 87. Drag out the head-rolling machine, then set fire to K Street. After that, return the keys to the everyday people. Story 88. Ensure there are affordable, suitable homes for everyone. Improve mental health resources for all, enhance healthcare, and provide free college education. It would be wonderful to see everyone able to take care of themselves without the burden of costs, and to have a home to return to. Story 89. Rescind everything done since January. Stopping the madness is the first priority. Story 90. Call in sick. That coffee isn't going to make itself, and I might need that convenience store job after I've been president. Story 91. Bring back funding for medical research, especially for childhood cancers and diseases. This should be an obvious priority, but for some reason, Republicans do not want to assist others. Story 92. Go to the bathroom to urinate. After that, observe the mess left by the previous person and try to clean it up to ensure everyone is treated equally and no one feels animosity towards each other. You can still have disagreements with your neighbor over the hedges, but you should not harm someone for something beyond their control. Story 93. Reinforce the value of the federal workforce keeping this country intact and afloat. Show respect for the people actually doing the work. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.